Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Just so you know, I know it's in the title, but this video is going to contain spoilers. Massive spoilers. I'm going to do an entire rundown of Avengers Infinity War and what we might see in Avengers 4 because of that. So if you don't want to know any spoilers, stop watching now. Stop it. There's spoilers in this. Spoilers. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. There's spoilers. I'm Tessa with mamasgeeky.com. A couple of nights ago, I was at the Avengers Infinity War world premiere. As you can probably hear, my voice isn't even back yet. I was right in the front row. There's some videos when the cast is coming out, and you can totally see me like screaming, waving, and my voice is gone still because we also went to the after party and the music was so loud. I was trying to have conversations with people. Like I had a conversation with Michael Rooker and one with Kevin Feige. And my voice, I was just talking so loud. And so I kind of lost my voice. As you probably know, if you've seen Thor Ragnarok, which I hope you did, and if you watched it all the way through past the credits, Thor and the rest of the Asgardians kind of all come up on Thanos' ship. That's exactly the moment that confirmed my suspicions that Loki took the Tesseract, okay? I figured he took it because now Thanos has known, you know, and he's showing up to take it. So this movie starts with death and destruction, okay? You see all the Asgardians are basically laying there like dead, okay? I mean, they're just been defeated by Thanos. So what you see right away is that all these people are dead, right? Everyone that was with Thor basically is dead, hurt. You see them all laying around. They've been defeated by Thanos and the Black Order, who you see there, which is great. I saw at first this one Asgardian and I was like, is that Thor? I'm not sure if that's Thor. It was Thor. He's not dead, but he's very, very hurt. And you see Loki surrounded by the Black Order, and Thanos is basically like, hey, give me the Space Stone. Give me the Tesseract now. And Loki's like, standing there, and he's like, okay, or else we're gonna kill Thor. And he grabs him, and I mean, he's squeezing his head. Like, I was like, oh my god, the first thing that we're gonna see is his head pop. You know, what the heck? So Thor gets really close to dying, and Loki, you see him start to tear up, which like really got me. And he basically is like, okay, stop. And Thor's like, it doesn't matter, we don't even have it. It was destroyed on Asgard. And Loki's like, yeah, I took it. And he does his little magic thing and pulls it out, and he gives it to Thanos. So Thanos crushes it, puts it in his gauntlet, and that's the scene you see in the trailer when it just goes, it sucks in, you know, it's really cool. You see a little battle between Hulk and Thanos, and the Black Order is gonna step in, and they're like, let him have his fun, because they know like there's no match for, I mean, Hulk is awesome, but he's no match for Thanos. He really, really hurt. Thanos really, really hurts Bruce, Hulk, whatever. So Heimdall's laying there, like dying, I'm assuming from like all these battles that we have not seen. And he grabs the sword and he summons Bifrost and he sends Hulk, you don't know where, right? He sends him off, okay? And so you're left with Thor and Loki. Oh, and then Heimdall dies, right? Then Thanos just kills him, right? So right away within the first few minutes of the movie, Heimdall's dead, okay? So then Loki actually tries to take on Thanos, and Thanos like knows what he's gonna do. Loki basically tries to, you know, master of mischief, deception. He tries to say like, oh, you know, bows to him, you know, basically says like, I'll be your minion or whatever, you know, almighty Thanos, I think something like that. And I was still like, oh my god, at this point. So I don't know exact words, and this was also a few days ago. I need to go see the movie again. But he pulls out a knife like he's going to kill Thanos, and Thanos just grabs him by the neck, chokes him to death right in front of Thor, like kills him. Loki dies. It's awful. I wouldn't say it went on too long, but it went on it was emotional, okay? But I also think Loki kind of deserved that death. Like, we're not going to see Loki again. I mean, he's dead. He's gone. I would be shocked if we see him again in the future. I know he died before, but this time I think he's dead. So Thor's like really upset, but, you know, Thanos kills him, kind of leaves Thor there alone and takes himself off to, go, himself and the Black Order to go find the rest of the stones. He knows that two are on Earth, so he's planning to go there, or at least send, some of the Black Order there. And then he's going to go somewhere else and get more. By the way, I love this mug. But I also hate this mug because I kind of hate Thanos right now. But it's really cool. See? Anyway, it's from superherostuff.com, so I love it. Anyways, I'll put the link in my description, but moving on. So then what we see, what I loved seeing Hulk crash through the ceiling of the Sanctum Sanctorum, because it's funny, it's like Wong and Doctor Strange are talking, and they have a funny they're talking about getting sandwiches, and Wong doesn't have money, and it's just funny, which is great because so much of this movie is humor, and so much of it is like depression and horrible and sad and dark. Sorry guys, my voice. So you see him crash through, which if you're a comic book reader, okay, I loved this part because I felt like it was such a nod to Infinity Gauntlet. Like, okay, in Infinity Gauntlet, which comes after Infinity War, so I'm not going to give too much away. I'll do that at the end with my predictions. Bruce Banner crashes through, or Hulk crashes through, and he turns back into Bruce Banner, which I think we see a little bit of that in the trailers. I'd have to go back and look, but I think we did. In Infinity Gauntlet, Silver Surfer crashes through the ceiling, and he's very hurt from a battle with Thanos' people, right? Just like Bruce Banner is. And he has come to Earth to warn them that Thanos is coming. Now in Infinity Gauntlet, he says, Thanos is coming, he's gotten all the stones, and he's coming, right? He's got his Infinity Gauntlet is full, and he's coming. This was more, Bruce Banner said, hey, Thanos is coming, but like, listen, he's got 2 stones already, okay? And he quickly mentions he got the Power Stone when he decimated Xandar. So, he went and fought Nova. I mean, you don't even see that, but obviously it happened. So, he's already got the Power Stone from that. And then he says, Loki gave him the Tesseract or whatever. He got it from them. It catches you up. Those are the 2 he got. That's how he got the first one, because we didn't see it. Which I think was more pressed for time. I mean, the movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and it feels like an hour. It's go, nonstop. I mean, don't drink anything because you cannot get up to pee. You will miss something. I guarantee you will miss something. Hold it. Bring a bottle to pee in. I don't care. You can't miss a second of this movie. Not even 1 second. So then we also see Iron Man or Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, and they're kind of walking and talking, and Tony is saying that he had a dream that they had kids, and they're kind of adorable and cute. And then Doctor Strange shows up, and he's like, Tony Stark, we gotta go. And it was right after they were like, no more surprises. We love each other. Let's just have a happy life. And so he has to go with Doctor Strange. And then Doctor Strange says, by the way, congrats on the wedding. So that they were married, which is kind of fantastic. Tony leaves to go to the Sanctum Sanctorum. So he gets there, and they kind of catch him up on everything. You don't really see it, but you just see him say, tell me his name again, which I think, again, we see in the trailers. And it's actually Bruce Banner who says, Thanos. One of my favorite parts is, you see the Guardians, right? They're kind of just in their spaceship in the Milano, going where they're going. And they're talking about why they're going where they're going. They've got a distress call. Should we go? That sort of thing. And Rocket, Peter's like, yes, of course we should go. And Rocket's like, yeah, they might give us money, basically. And Gamora's like, that's why we're going? Kind of their typical joking around. So the Guardians are going to answer this distress call. And they get there, and it's the Asgardians, and everything is just decimated. They're floating all over, whatever. Well, Thor, smack, lands on the windshield, which I feel like we've seen in trailers. That might have been in the D23 footage, but I feel like we've seen it. And he opens his one eye, right? So they're like, oh, but they pull him on, and you see the thing where Drax is like, ooh, you're a dude, Peter, but this guy is a man, and Gamora's like even like rubbing his muscles and stuff. But so Mantis actually wakes him up. He's like knocked out. And he has this funny thing going back and forth with Peter, with Star-Lord. It's hilarious. Star-Lord is like talking deeper and trying to be more like, brr, I'm awesome, because he feels very insecure after seeing Thor. And basically Thor assumes that Rocket is the captain of the ship, and he calls him Bunny, and he calls him Bunny this entire movie when they're together, and it's hilarious. And what I really love is that Rocket doesn't really correct him, which he tends to correct a lot of people. I mean, if anyone calls him a raccoon or whatever, he he corrects them. He gets upset, and he kind of just lets Thor do it, which I thought was kind of interesting and kind of out of character, but I think it shows that he maybe respected, maybe feared a little bit Thor, or just didn't really want to pick a battle with him, which I thought was kind of cool. So Thor says he needs a new weapon. He knows he needs a new weapon in order to defeat Thanos. So he goes off. He takes Rocket and Groot with him. So Star-Lord, Drax, Gamora, and Mantis go off to get the Reality Stone. They knew where it was with the Collector, so they went there. So on the way to get the Reality Stone, one of the most emotional scenes ever happens. It's where I was already crying from Loki and all that, but this is where I first, I think, like sobbed, like really, really cried. Basically, Gamora tells Peter that if Thanos gets her, to kill her, right? She says, I know where something is, and we assume at this point, we pretty much know it's the Soul Stone. She says, if he gets me, like, he will make me tell him where it is. And so if he takes me, just kill me, just do it. And Peter's like, no, because he loves her, you know. He's like, I don't want to do that. And basically she says, swear on your mother, okay, which is obviously pretty intense for Peter, for Star-Lord, and he's basically eventually says, okay. I believe right before that or right after that, we see the background a little bit of when Thanos took Gamora from her family, and he gave her this little weapon. It was like a little thing, and there's blades that come out of both sides, and he gave her that to play with, and he turned her around when he killed half of her planet. Okay, so Thanos' whole thing, if you don't know, and they kind of talk about it in here, is balance, right? He actually tells her that when he gives it to her and she puts it on her finger. He says, if it leans too much this way or too much that way, it'll fall. You want balance, okay? So his whole thing is, and in the comics, it's because of Lady Death. Like, he's in love with Lady Death, and she tells him to do it. She's upset that more people are alive than have ever died. So she says there's not balance here. Right? So he decides he's going to kill half the universe, destroy half the universe. And that's kind of what he's doing here, right? Like, he went to that planet and he killed half of her people. But he feels like it's mercy, right? These people were starving, okay? There was just too much population. So he says, well, if I kill half of you, you guys are going to live like kings. You won't be hungry anymore, okay? There won't be famine. So, I mean, I see where he's coming from, but the dude is like, you know, that's not right. That's not very moral, okay? But he feels like it is. He feels like it's mercy. And I think Gamora says to him at one point, like, you do this and you say that it's mercy. So it's crazy. They show up and they see the Collector, like, on his knees, or maybe he's down on the ground, actually, and Thanos is over him, and Thanos is trying to get the Reality Stone from him. And the Collector is trying to say he sold it. And it's funny because Star-Lord is like trying to give directions and tell a plan, and nobody's listening to him. They're doing, you know, he says go right, they go left. So anyway, Gamora sees Thanos and she goes up to him, and you see her take her weapon, and I mean, she stabs him in the neck. I mean, she kills him, right? But she's crying. She's so upset that she did this to him. And I was kind of crying, and you know, then everything kind of fades away. And you see that, you know, he's already destroyed the Collector. He's already gotten the Reality Stone. That's why it looks like this, okay? It wasn't real. You know, they didn't really find... I mean, they found Thanos there, but they didn't kill him, you know? And he steps out and he's like, oh, Gamora, you were, you know, sad when you killed me. You still love me, type of sort of thing. And he grabs her and he gets her. And she's looking at Peter and she's like, you got to do it, you got to do it. And he's like, I said go right, because he said to go right and she went left. Not that would have mattered, but that was like his plan, and she didn't listen to his plan. So he's like crying, and she's like, shoot, because he was holding the gun at Thanos, and she's like, don't point it at him, point it at me. And he's holding it there and he's shaking and he doesn't want to do it and he's upset. And I think he says, I love you. And she says, I love you too. I think it's something like that. And I can't even... It was a mess. So, give me a second, guys. So he shoots her, but bubbles come out, right? Because Thanos has the Reality Stone. So, and then Thanos takes her and disappears, basically. So, it's tough. It's tough. And actually, Thanos calls Star-Lord her boyfriend at one point. He goes, oh, this is the boyfriend. So that's kind of cool. I'm kind of glad. You know, they said, oh, it's an unspoken thing at the end of Guardians 2. But obviously, they've kind of told people they're together, you know, which is great. So then you see Thanos get back to his base, whatever, and he takes Gamora to see Nebula, who he has in this state of like between life and death. She's stretched out. All of her like mechanical parts are pulled away from her, and she's in a lot of pain, right? And he says, Gamora, I'm disappointed in you. I sent you to find the Soul Stone. And she's like, and I didn't find it. And he's like, I'm disappointed in you because you did and you didn't tell me. And he plays back a memory from Nebula, like from her eye, from her brain. Must be, part of all the stuff that he's put in her, all the mechanics. And you see where Nebula and Gamora were talking, and Nebula's like, he's going to get all the stones. And Gamora's like, he can't because I found a map to the Soul Stone and I destroyed it. Right? So Thanos is like, tell me where it is. Tell me where it is. And she's like, never. Well, he starts torturing Nebula. And finally Gamora gives in because she loves Nebula so much. And she says the planet that it's on. And they go there and leave Nebula there. And again, another great nod to the comics. Because in Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet, in the comics in general, Nebula is actually Thanos' granddaughter. However, he puts her in this state between life and death. Right? She's kind of like a walking zombie type. It's crazy, but he leaves her in this state. So I felt like that was sort of a nod to that when she was like hanging there. That's what it seemed like to me, which as a comic book reader, I love. I love when I find little pieces that tie back to the comics. So let's get back to what's going on with Bruce Banner, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Wong, okay? They're talking at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and Doctor Strange tells everyone, hey, I've got this time stone. He's not going to be able to get it. Don't worry. And they hear this like people running and screaming, and so they go outside, and the Black Dwarf and Ebony Maw have showed up on Earth to find, they know Doctor Strange has the time stone. So they all go out there, and they're kind of showing their game faces, getting their spells set, and Iron Man's got his suit on. And interesting, and it's hilarious, actually, the whole thing that happens is Bruce Banner cannot go Hulk. He is trying so hard, and he can't, and Iron Man's like, you're embarrassing me here, dude. But like, he just can't, right? And at one point, and I don't remember if it's during this battle or not, but Hulk kind of pops out and says no and comes back in. And he's like, what do you mean no? So there's like something going on here where Hulk is not wanting to come out of Bruce Banner. I don't know why. Maybe we'll see more of that in the future, but it's really interesting. And I really liked that part of it, that Bruce Banner just couldn't go Hulk. He couldn't force it no matter what he was doing. Hulk was actually coming forward and saying, no, I don't want to come out right now. So that's who this one major battle is between, and Doctor Strange ends up getting rid of Black Dwarf. He teleports him somewhere, and the thing closes and actually cuts off his arm, which is kind of cool. It ends up really being Ebony Maw versus Doctor Strange. Ebony Maw actually at one point grabs Doctor Strange's amulet, the Eye of Agamotto, and it burns his hand. And Doctor Strange is like, yep, it's a spell, but, basically you can't take it, basically. And Ebony Maw is like, well, I'll just take it off your dead body then. And Doctor Strange is like, it's hard to get a spell, take it, a spell from a dead body, a corpse. And he's like, well, you'll just wish you were dead. I'll torture you, whatever. So in the meantime, Spider-Man, you see Spider-Man on a bus, and his hair's on his arm stand up, which you see in the trailer. So he kind of tells his friend there, we need a distraction. And that's when you see that Stan Lee's the bus driver, which is like really funny. That was a great cameo. He's like, what's going on? So anyway, Spider-Man gets himself out. He starts talking to Tony, says what's going on. Tony says these guys showed up. Tony basically tells him to protect Doctor Strange. So Ebony Maw ends up taking Doctor Strange on his ship and taking off. So Spider-Man attaches himself to it. And he battles a little bit, but this is the gist of it. He attaches himself to it, and he's going up into space. And Iron Man's following him, and all of a sudden he can't breathe. Spider-Man can't. And Iron Man tells him to go home, but throws a thing at him and attaches to him, and he becomes Iron Spider, which is so cool. I mean, that suit is so cool. It's awesome. Well, of course, Peter Parker being Peter Parker, he does not go back home. He gets himself inside the ship and hangs out there as well. So now we've got Iron Man, we've got Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange is on the ship as well. Bruce didn't know about Civil War because he was gone. So Tony kind of tells him about it, and he has the phone. Tony was going to make the call. That's when Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf arrive. So he drops the phone, and after Tony leaves, Bruce ends up picking up the phone and making the call to Captain America, okay? So Iron Man and Spider-Man are trying to come up with a plan to save Doctor Strange. Ebony Maw is sitting there starting to torture Doctor Strange. That's what we see with those things sticking in him. Well, they basically pull an alien, and Iron Man blasts a hole in the wall, and it sucks Ebony Maw out. Okay, Doctor Strange goes out too. Spider-Man saves him because he grabs him with the webs, and then his little arm things come out and are holding him until he can get back in, which is pretty cool. It's awesome to see that suit in action. So then Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange decide to go to where they think Thanos will be. So at the same time, Star-Lord, Mantis, and Drax are looking for Gamora. So they go to nowhere as well. So they're both of them are there. It's kind of a really funny interaction. They both think the other one is working with Thanos. And so they're kind of fighting and holding each other and threatening each other. And basically, eventually, they find out they're both looking for Thanos. The Guardians say, oh, you're the Avengers, you're the ones Thor told us about, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but when he was on the ship, he kind of mentioned the Avengers, right? He said, oh, the stone's with the Avengers. So, because the Mind Stone is with Vision, and the Time Stone is with Doctor Strange. So you see Scarlet Witch and Vision, which Vision actually looks like himself, like Paul Bettany, which is really, really awesome. I kind of love it. And he says, his stone is hurting him. Something is coming, but he's trying to ignore it. So I'm sure that's just Thanos feeling the stone, something like that. Anyway, you can tell they're together for like a couple of weeks, and then they split up. Like he turns off his tracker so nobody knows where they are. And then they each go their own separate way and come back and meet up every so often because they're in love. And Vision was kind of saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave this time. Let's just be together. Well, in comes Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. So that goes out the window. They battle. They're in a fight. They're, you've seen the Corvus Glaive's weapon, like right on the Mind Stone, trying to pull it out. And him in a lot of pain. He gets stabbed several times, and she stitches him up, and then he gets stabbed again. But basically, they're in a really bad spot. In comes Cap and Black Widow. Now, they really, really hurt Corvus Glaive. Could have killed him. Could have killed the Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, but they said, we don't want to kill you. We want you to surrender. And then, too late. She said, you'll never have a chance again. And they teleport. They're gone. So then they're trying to figure out a safe place to go, somewhere where they can try to figure out. They're trying to figure out a way to separate the Mind Stone from Vision and still make Vision okay. So Cap says, I know where we can go. Cue Wakanda, right? So it ends up being, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Bruce Banner, Cap, and Black Widow showing up at Wakanda. That's where you see Cap's interaction with Bucky, the like, hey, how have you been? Pretty good for the end of the world. It's funny. So then we see Shuri, and she's, analyzing everything, and she kind of makes Bruce look like an idiot. She's like, well, why didn't you do this? He's like, because we didn't think of it. So she's saying, I should be able to separate the Mind Stone from Vision and still leave Vision as okay, Bruce says, listen, there's tons of parts of Vision that are not the Mind Stone, right? That was just the end part, right? There's parts of myself, there's parts of Tony. So we're hoping, and, we're seeing if Shuri's going to be able to pull it off. So let's cut back to Gamora and Thanos. He takes her to where the Soul Stone is. There's someone kind of protecting it and saying, like, listen, this is crazy. This is where the Soul Stone is, whatever. And the cape comes down and it's Red Skull. And you're like, what? Red Skull. And guys, he's played by Ross Marquand from The Walking Dead, which is Aaron from The Walking Dead. And he's amazing. And I talked to him at the after party and he loved my tattoo, which was super cool. But like, he was so good. He was so good. And I was so excited to see Red Skull. It was amazing. It was awesome. But anyway, so they get up to where the Soul Stone's going to be, or to a cliff, and he says, Red Skull basically says, listen, you have to sacrifice a soul you love to get the Soul Stone. Okay? Sacrifice a soul you love. And Gamora just starts cracking up, and she's like, Thanos, you will never complete your mission because you don't love anyone, right? And he looks at her with a tear, and she goes, ha, tears? And Red Skull says the tears are not for him. And that is when I realized, holy cow, he's going to sacrifice Gamora. And it's so hard. He's pulling her and she's holding herself back screaming, no, 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 no. And you almost think of her as a little girl and him holding her hand. And he throws her right off and she goes down and dies and the Soul Stone shows up. So Thanos, he kills Gamora. That was hard. And actually, interesting fun fact, I was talking to Kevin at the after party, and he mentioned that he saw Zoe Saldana actually get up after the scene and leave. Because it's probably a little tough for her. She got up with her husband and left. but she did end up coming back. Now, of course, you know, she shot it. She knew that was going to happen, but that was her first, that was really her first time seeing it. I mean, it's intense. When you see him pulling her and she's just, I mean, she doesn't want to go. And it's hard for him too, which is kind of crazy because you're like, Thanos has a heart a little bit. Like, I kind of thought he was a jerk. And he's like shaken up about it. Like, he's not okay about it. So then at one point, Thanos shows up to get the time stone from Doctor Strange, okay? So it's, remember the group that's together. It's Star-Lord, Mantis, Drax, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man, okay? They make it look kind, you know, everyone else is hiding and Doctor Strange is just standing there himself. Thanos shows up. He said, so I guess the Maw is dead. And they said, yes, meaning Ebony Maw. So he says, well, at least he did his job. He brought you here. Give me the stone, whatever. Now, meanwhile, or a little bit before, it's important to know that Doctor Strange said to Iron Man and Spider-Man, he said, listen, he basically said to Iron Man, I don't care about you and the kid. I need to protect this stone. I'm not going to sacrifice it for either one of you. If you die, you die. Like, sorry, okay? So it ends up being a huge battle. They're holding Thanos down, right? Mantis is on his head, holding him as hard as she can with her hands on him, just trying to hold him in a state of, not really sleep because he's awake, but they're trying to get the gauntlet off him, and they're holding him down. And Star-Lord comes up and says, where's Gamora? Now, meanwhile, Iron Man is trying to pull off the gauntlet. I believe Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are holding him down as well with magic and with webs. Not down, but like, you know, he's down on his knees and he's got his arms stretched out and they're pulling the gauntlet. Iron Man's pulling the gauntlet. And Star-Lord says, where's Gamora? And Mantis goes, ooh, he's feeling great grief or something like that. Well, and basically, you know, they end up realizing that she's dead. And Star-Lord is so upset, visibly upset, and it's very hard. And Iron Man, Tony is like, don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. Like, we've got him. It's coming off. He calls Spider-Man over to help him, and they're trying to get the gauntlet. And Star-Lord is so pissed and so hurt that he's lost Gamora. You know, he's like, I can't believe you do this. And he hits him, and it messes up because it knocks Mantis off. And basically, Thanos is okay now. You know, he's not held down anymore. They almost had the gauntlet, and they didn't get it. And then you see Thanos just whoosh, Iron Man, Tony Stark, stab, get him. He's dying. He's down, you know. It's the part when he says, I hope they remember you, you know, that you see. I mean, I literally jumped and I screamed. Like, I don't think I jumped out, but I went, no. And I screamed. And the girl next to me, my friend, she starts like rubbing my back and holding me because I was like, not Tony Stark. Like, what? That's who dies? Really? Like, that's one of the main ones that dies is Tony Stark. I'm not okay with this. Not okay with this. He was just talking with Peppa about having kids, and so that was rough. That was really, really rough. And then it's Doctor Strange down, and Doctor Strange basically says to Thanos, listen, if you spare his life, if you spare his life, I'll give you the time stone. And he does. He does. He gives him the time stone and spares his life. And Thanos spares Iron Man's life, okay? It's kind of intense. So now Thanos really only needs the Mind Stone. And he leaves. Now, in the meantime, Thor, Rocket, and Groot, Groot, who is just constantly playing video games like a teenager would, which is kind of funny, show up to find Itri, which happens to be Peter Dinklage. Okay, Itri the dwarf, he's the one who made Mjolnir, and, you know, they need him to make a Stormbreaker for him, make a weapon for Thor. He's there, the whole place is decimated, the foundry is turned off. Oh, by the way, Rocket gives Thor another eye. He's like, oh, I won this off some guy, here you go, and he stuck it in there, and actually it's really funny. Rocket says, if I were you, I would have washed that. I had to put it, to escape it, to take it with me, I had to put it in and he gets cut off, but obviously he's talking about his butt. So Thor got the eye in. So now he's got two different colored eyes, which is kind of fun, kind of cool. So they see Itri, and he said, Thanos came to him and said, listen, I need you to make this for me, which was the gauntlet, you know, something that would hold all the stones. And so he also put metal on his hands, so he can't use his hands, right? So basically Thor and Rocket end up having to turn the foundry on. They get it to turn on in order to heat up the metal. There's a star, and basically the mechanism doesn't work, so Thor had to hold it open, and they said, listen, Thor, you're gonna die. You can't take that, you'll die. So he's holding it open long enough for it to the metal to make, and Idri is very quickly trying to get the Stormbreaker made, and he can't find the handle, and Thor comes down and he collapses and he's dying. Like his face, he's burning up, he's going to die. And he's like, where's the handle? Where's the handle? He needs his weapon, and that will bring him back, right? That will help him. And Groot's looking around, and he kind of puts down his video game, and he grows out his arm, attaches it to the axe part, and just chops his arm off to make the handle for Stormbreaker. And you see Thor's fingers kind of have sparks, as Jeff Goldblum would call them, as the Grandmaster would call them. So at this point, Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, who you think is dead, but he's not really, show up at Wakanda, and, there's that barrier there, but they are trying to get through. They show up with a whole ton of Outriders, which, if you look them up, they're just like basically minions of Thanos and the Black Order. And they're basically sacrificing themselves. And so they're trying to get in, the Black Order and the Outriders. The Outriders are basically sacrificing themselves, climbing through the barrier and making themselves get cut in half, and they're just attacking it, running into it. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of them. And, you see the front line, which has M'Baku and Black Panther and Black Widow and Bucky and Cap. I mean, it's that scene you see of them all in Wakanda that you've seen several times of them running forward. So it's all of them. They're just kind of standing there watching. Now, meanwhile, Shuri and Vision and Scarlet Witch are still, in Shuri's lab trying to figure out how to separate Vision and the Mind Stone. The Outriders start running around the dome. And I don't remember if it's Black Panther or Cap, but one of them kind of figures out, if they get around to the back, there's no one protecting between Vision and the back. Black Panther orders for a panel of the dome to come down, so that everyone will kind of come through there, and they get ready to fight. And that's what they do. It opens up and everyone comes in, and Scarlet Witch comes down, and she's like super powerful. And I think it's Okoye says, what was she doing up there the whole time? Basically like, hello, she's like crazy powerful. She just killed like a whole bunch of people. And she just... So anyway, I mean, like I've said before, Scarlet Witch is crazy powerful. So Okoye and Scarlet Witch and Black Widow are fighting Proxima Midnight, and it's crazy. They end up killing her, which is awesome, but that battle is great. The whole battle is amazing. And at one point, it basically looks like all hope is lost. Like, people are about to die. I think Cap is about to die, Black Panther. I mean, they're getting overrun, and comes down Thor, and he is crazy. He has Stormbreaker, and he just kills all these people, and it's nuts. It's awesome. Shuri can't successfully get the Mind Stone out, and in time, Vision ends up getting out into the battle. And Thanos shows up. So Bruce is in the Hulkbuster because he can't Hulk out. So you see Hulk, Hulkbuster. You see Cap, Bucky, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, Vision, and Black Panther, and they're all kind of fighting Thanos. They run off, right? So you don't see like all the other warriors. By the way, what everyone was trying to speculate was that Quicksilver, that blue streak through Wakanda battle in the trailer, was Stormbreaker. So there you go. That's a little fun fact. So there's that one scene where Thanos and Cap stops him, and it looks like Cap's gonna die. At the same time, now Vision and Scarlet are kind of off. They're in the same area, but they've taken off a little bit to be by themselves. Vision basically tells Scarlet Witch, it's time. You are the only one who can do this. It shouldn't be you, but it's you. You need to take this you're going to kill me, basically, but destroy the Mind Stone, then Thanos cannot have it. Okay, it's the only one he needs now. He's got all the rest. So she doesn't want to do it. She's crying, but ends up, she knows she has to do it. So she's sitting there, like, really trying to get in there and kill it. Thanos makes his way through everyone. I mean, they're not dead. None of them are dead, but they're hurt. Okay? And he comes, and at the last second, Scarlet Witch gets it, and Vision just dies, right? You see him die. The Mind Stone comes out and shatters, whatever. And Thanos is looking at him like, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I know your pain. I just had to do the same thing. I get it, right? Because he's relating him having to kill Gamora and Scarlet Witch having to kill Vision. Like, we've both killed people we love, but, oh, by the way, doesn't matter because I got the time stone. He turns back time just a little bit to be able to get the stone from Vision. Vision dead. You see his face kind of lay down and it's got a big hole here and he's dead. So she basically had to just watch Vision die twice. Now Thanos has all of them in the gauntlet. Thor shows up right through, throws his axe, throws Stormbreaker right into Thanos' chest. He falls down. He's got blood coming out of his mouth. He's like shaking and he's saying, you should have. You should have. And Thor gets close and Thor's basically like, I told you I was going to kill you. You killed Loki. I told you you were going to die for that. And he goes, you should have gone for the head. And he snaps his fingers. Now, I will tell you, in the comics, that's a big thing. And I know Gamora said at one point with the snap of his fingers, but in the comics, he snaps his fingers with the gauntlet on when he wants stuff done and stuff gets done. That's all he has to do. He has to think it, snap his fingers. And, this thing is crazy powerful, especially with all the Infinity Gems. So, basically, Thanos is teleported away, right? This is where it gets hard. So when he snapped his fingers, he wanted half of the world to disappear, or half of the people. Well, people start disappearing, okay? They turn into dust and, float away. And it's some big, big names. And it's some hard spots. Mantis, you see Mantis, and she's like, oh, something is happening. And she disappears. Drax looks at Star-Lord and is like, Peter? And he disappears. Star-Lord, gone. He disappears. Doctor Strange looks at Tony and says, it was the only way. He disappears. Okay? It's crazy. Black Panther sees Okoye laying down. He says this is no place to die. He reaches his hand out. He disappears. Totally thought it was going to be her there, but it wasn't. Bucky comes running out and he goes, Steve! And he disappears. And you're like, what is happening? Scarlet Witch looks up like, thank you. And she disappears because she doesn't want to live in a world without Vision, One of the absolute hardest parts, okay, was, Spider-Man starts to feel weird and he's like, Tony, sir, I don't want to go. Don't let me go. And he's holding on to Tony, shaking, and he falls down and he disappears. And that was really hard because he's just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sorry. And then poor Rocket has to watch Groot disappear for a second time. So sees Groot's like, I am Groot. And he starts to disappear. And Rocket's like, no, Groot, no. So that was great. I don't know that I mentioned it earlier, but Nebula had showed up and she knew Gamora was dead too. She was there. I don't think I mentioned that, but she showed up and she was right when Thanos was talking about Gamora. Actually, she's the one who says, so Nebula's standing there and Nebula says, he went to get the Soul Stone and he came back with the Soul Stone and not Gamora. So she knew. And that's when Star-Lord's like, no, say it's not true. And Mantis is like, it is. And that's when Star-Lord kind of loses it. So in the end, we basically have Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, all still alive. The three heavy hitters that I thought were all in danger, all alive. Rocket's alive. Nebula's alive. That's really Shuri, right? Okoye, she's alive. And yeah, that's basically it. So Thanos has teleported himself to his home world. I think he uses the Reality Stone to make it look happy and nice. And he sits there and watches the sunset, which is what he told Gamora he was going to do when he accomplished everything he wanted to do. He sits there and watches the sunset and he kind of smiles. Because he thinks it's mercy. He thinks he's accomplished what he's supposed to accomplish. I have chills. I have literal chills, guys. I don't know if you can see my goosebumps. But I do. I have them. So if you sit through the credits, there's one stinger, one end scene, which I think all the Avengers only have one. And it's Maria Hill and Nick Fury driving. A car basically crashes into them and they get out to look and there's no driver. And this is because half of the world's population is disappearing, right? So they get out and Maria Hill kind of goes, Nick, and she disappears. Nick's like, oh crap. And he gets to the back of their car and he takes out this little thing and he's trying to call, right? Trying to send a message. And he starts to disappear and he goes, mother. And he disappears. But it falls down and guess what? It says calling. And you see the Captain Marvel symbol. Okay, you see this like star thing and the red and blue. So it's like the message got through, okay? So hopefully Captain Marvel shows up and really helps. I think she will. My predictions for Avengers 4, I think Loki and Heimdall and Gamora are for sure dead. I don't think they're going to come back, you know. I mean, Gamora was the sacrifice for the Soul Stone. Gamora was the sacrifice for the Soul Stone. So how's she going to get back, right? She's not. But I think everyone who disappeared, I think that they have the potential to come back, okay? I mean, how are you going to do Guardians with Nebula and Rocket, right? I mean, I guess you could, right? It's not going to be the same team at all, maybe, but man, I don't know. The music was fantastic. The music was great, especially the Guardians parts, which I know you could tell James Gunn had his hands all in that. And I actually know for a fact, when we were interviewing James Gunn for Guardians 2, he told us that for Avengers Infinity War, he wrote all of the scenes that the Guardians were in. I touched on all this in my spoiler-free review at mamasgeeky.com, but every single person you saw had a purpose, okay? And that's what I loved about it. And there were no cheap deaths, right? Nothing came cheap, for me anyway. Now, maybe if you're not a comic book fan and you haven't realized, even though, I mean, there's been a lot of coverage of people, of the Russo brothers, basically saying, you know, Avengers 4 is a continuation of Avengers 3, okay? They were even originally calling it Infinity War 1 and 2, and they changed it. I think the reason they haven't announced the name, I think it's going to be Infinity Gauntlet. I really do, which the story is amazing. Long story short, you know, Thanos destroys everyone, and then he becomes so powerful that he's like, I don't need my physical form anymore, and he puts himself into space. The only person who's left is Nebula, who he has in this zombie-like state. But she's smart enough. She still has a brain. She wanders over and she grabs the Infinity Gauntlet. She puts it on. And then she says, you know, with the exception of me having the gauntlet, like I still want to have the gauntlet, but I want everything to be back to how it was 24 hours ago. Unfortunately, she puts herself in this state of life and death again. But everybody came back to life. I think it's possible they'll do something like that. Probably only the people that disappeared, right? Not, like I said, not Heimdall, not Loki, not Gamora. Probably not Vision. Vision's probably done for, unfortunately. I hope not, but he probably is. But they could also really recreate him, maybe, sort of. I don't know. Tony's like super smart. That's very possible. But anyways, so then she's like, that's what some big names are fighting over. Anyway, that's when Adam Warlock gets it, which, you know, I just think, just read Infinity Gauntlet, guys. It's not that long. It's an easy read. I've read it in like 2 hours, under 2 hours. So you should grab that trade paperback and read it. You will love it. And I think it could give you a lot of insight to the future. You know, I think a lot of people who haven't, don't know much about the comics, maybe are a little upset there's no resolution at the end of this. But like I said, the Russo brothers have been talking about how it's basically a part 1 and part 2. It's just not called part 1 and part 2. For quite a while during our Civil War coverage, I was at the Captain America Civil War junket and they said that. So, you know, you might have missed it, but I don't know that they've said it much recently, but probably more or less just to shock audiences and leave you with like the biggest cliffhanger ever. Like, what is going to happen? That end scene is probably one of the best end scenes I've ever seen. I'm super excited for Captain Marvel next year. I can't wait. Obviously, that's preset, so it's going to give us an introduction to her because I think she's going to be a major player in Avengers 4. That's basically it, guys. The battles are epic. Every single battle is epic. The movie is go, 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 go. As soon as one scene starts to wind down, I don't want to say lull or get dull because it doesn't. But, you know, if it had been another minute of this scene, maybe it would start to get, okay. So as soon as one scene starts to wind down, they just snap right to another scene, another group of people. So it's back and forth. So I know I was back and forth on the stories here. I wasn't in the exact order that it was in the movie. I know that for a fact. I'm still wrapping my head around stuff. I've probably missed stuff. If I missed anything, feel free to comment with it. You know, this is a spoiler. This is a total spoiler safe zone, okay? I had to get this out. I've warned that this is a spoiler video. It's in the title. It's It's in the description. This is a spoiler video. So if I miss something, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm still wrapping my brain around everything. I can't wait to go see this movie again. We see that Bruce and Hulk are having an issue. Hulk doesn't want to come out, so is there going to be more to that at some point? Hopefully, I'm sure we will see more of it. Probably Avengers 4. So that's why he's having to use the Hulkbuster armor. We got to see a look at Iron Spider, who's amazing. Hopefully he'll be back. I'm sure he will. You know, the whole thing, I'm just really curious to see what happens. Again, if you have any comments, any other spoilers that I forgot, or anything you want to talk about, leave it in the comments. I'll be writing people back like crazy. I really want to discuss this movie with you guys. I really, really do. I loved it. Hopefully everyone loves it. I think it's very fast-paced. I think you need to see it at least twice in theaters to really fully grasp everything that happened. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, guys.